We're getting a look at Governor Whitmer's plan to get students back in school.
Yeah, right now, whether or not your kid will be back in class physically depends on the latest with COVID-19 cases here in Michigan. We are joined by one of those superintendents serving on the state task force, making recommendations to get them back in class. Dr. John Severson joining us, superintendent of Muskegon Area Intermediate School District. Dr. Severson, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, so after just hearing this, yesterday having some time to digest, what are you guys thinking about this all so far?
Well, we're very pleased with the recommendations. We've really anticipated to get those. I know that the superintendents in our county have been collaborating, already working at preliminary plans, and these recommendations and guidelines give us a very clear path going forward. So we're very excited about getting these plans.
Are there any areas where you're a little bit concerned on how you're going to make it happen as part of this plan?
Well, the plans match up to the phases. We're currently in phase 4, so those safety, the oversight on safety is much more strict at phase 4. I'm hopeful that maybe by September we could be at phase 6, so a lot of those could be lifted. But we've already started the process of looking at some of these best practices, primarily on safety, how students come into a building, the distancing and those kinds of areas. But we also know having students return, we need to focus on social and emotional well-being. Many families have been impacted negatively by the pandemic. We know that people have lost their jobs. We've had families that have become ill. And we really need to make sure we get that right at the very beginning. But on the guidelines of safety, we really feel this will give us a great lens, and we'll be prepared in the fall to have our kids come back.
Yeah, so you brought up a good point about, the mental well-being. That is certainly huge. And, have you heard about, do you expect a certain amount of students to come back, or some of them staying at home and choosing to do it virtually?
There's been some great surveys. I know the superintendents in our counties have done individual surveys with parents to really hear their voices. And we know there are major partners coming back to school. Depending on the area and the region, there could be 10 to 20% that are really hesitant about returning. I think if we do a really good job with these guidelines and communicate them well, partner with parents and teachers and staff, people feel really comfortable about coming back to school. And we really need to start working toward that normalcy, but we also have to go through the lens of having the safest environments for our kids.
You talked about safest environments. How are you going to address lunchtime, maybe recess, phys ed, that kind of thing?
Well, depending on the phase you're in, that tells you about what we have to deliver on. And, I know superintendents and principals are already discussing ways to limit interaction between students. For example, cohort, a class could stay together most of the day with teachers coming in instead of students changing classes. Or maybe we have lunch in the classroom. There are a variety of ways to handle this this tough situation, but I think we have to really make sure, number one, we're following the CDC guidelines, we're working with our health department to make sure that we really limit the opportunity for this virus to spread even more. We know that if we're in a phase 4 and we're working to phase 5, if we do these things well, we can keep growing and improving. But the worst thing would be to fall back and to go back into phase 1 through 3 and have kids at home. So we're all working very diligently to make sure we can have our students back in the fall.
All right, Dr. Severson, thanks so much for being with us this morning. We appreciate it.